We are live.
Live Senate Appropriations, February 6th. And we have some testimony on the VA before we finish it on, I think we're going to last testimony we'll take on the VA from the Agency of Education. I'll let you introduce.
All right. For the record, Jill Briggs-Campbell, Deputy Secretary of Education and Chief of Operations. Thank you for squeezing us in today. I hope this is going to be a pretty simple one. So what we're talking about today, I sent over some slides, but there's like two, so I wasn't even going to share today, is a request for a reversion and reappropriation to support the agency's statewide efforts to improve literacy outcomes as part of the requirements of Act 139. I will say, understanding the tight timeline on the BAA, we also have this in the FY27 budget request. The advantage of having it in BAA is that it gives us more time to plan. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the impacts of kind of the start and stop that we've had to navigate our way through with our literacy efforts because we haven't had stable funding. So if it's possible to have this in the BAA, that gives us several months of additional planning time, which would be much appreciated, but you will see it in the FY27 request. So as I said, this is for state level work that we've been doing around literacy outcomes. So Act 139 was really landmark legislation, statewide legislation, really to drive and improve literacy outcomes in the state, which have been following for over a decade, really based around the science of reading as sort of a statewide standard. One of the ways that the agency has been supporting this is we know from national best practice that one of the strongest ways to improve this is it's all about classroom instruction, right? So it's really ensuring that our kind of frontline teachers understand the science of reading, that they know how to work with their students and differentiate their instructions for all learners, and really be able to use all of the different forms of assessment that they do, all the data that they get to then help to support those students even further. So what we have here, as I said, it's a reversion and a reappropriation. And these funds have had a little bit of a long and twisted path, so bear with me for one moment. Originally, so it's a $700,000 general fund. Originally, these were actually federal ARPA SFRF funds. And the legislature appropriated $4 million to the Agency of Education for IT modernization projects. We actually reevaluated, it was, an estimate at the time. We actually reduced that to $3 million. And then in December of 2024, the Agency of Administration did an administrative action that they were permitted to do, which basically transformed these federal dollars into general fund dollars. So as of right now, the AOE has 1.4 million of these general fund dollars remaining. About 700,000 of that we are using to complete these projects, these IT projects. And we have three major ones, and they should be done in this next year. The remaining $700,000 is actually what we're requesting to revert and then reappropriate so that we can use it for this literacy purpose. In addition, so not only is this not new money, but it's money that we're actually using to replace some lost federal dollars. So originally we were using some of our ESSER and GEAR funds, which were those COVID era education funds that came from the feds, and the Trump administration reversed course and basically no longer allowed us to use those funds. So in February, March of last year, the Trump administration did an about face and said those funds are no longer available to you. And all of our literacy work had to come to a screeching halt. So since then, we've been, I would say, scrappy and resourceful in continuing to try to pull together all the different funding streams that we have, but this would be a really important thing for us to do. So not only is it not new money, but we're actually replacing one federal source with a different federal source. So I have that on kind of the slide number 2 there, just an outline of kind of the origin story of these funds. And then I did want to speak briefly to sort of what we're doing with these funds. So the Read Vermont Literacy Institute, we've been doing this coaching work for the past 12, 18 months or so. In November of 2025, we launched the Read Vermont Literacy Institute. We have 11 pilot schools, which represent 70 educators and leaders, 6-week coaching cycles. So this kind of work is actually pretty personal, pretty small scale in order to be effective. So it's coaching cycles, professional learning, and then classroom implementation. And then we're already seeing that educators are applying this to their instructional practice, and we know that this is an approach that actually gets good outcomes. What's next? So the work that we're looking at for the next 12 months, that this $700,000 with some additional funds that we're pulling together to help to support, is doing a summer convening for 200 educators statewide, and then taking this kind of coaching and professional development approach and actually scaling it up statewide. So that would be the work of the next school year. So those are the major initiatives that we have underway, and we'll be adding more initiatives as we go. Things like family literacy engagement, which again can speak to as critical. I as a parent can speak to as critical. And then the last slide, I just wanted to give you a sense of how we're grading this funding. Act 139 did not come with any money appropriated for literacy.
What's that?
Act 139 was our major literacy initiative. And
Like 2 years ago, last year?
yeah, 2 years ago. And it didn't actually come with any funding. It came with a limited service position that was now made permanent. But since then, the agency has been pulling together money. So this just gives you a sense of how we're planning to resource this work over the next 12 months. So we have some Title II funds, which are federal dollars for professional development. We have some Title IV funds we can also use for professional development. We have some FY25 carry forward funds that we've done a DAB, and I never remember exactly what that stands for 100,000. We have some FY26 carry forward that we've done the same thing for, and then we have the 700,000. For scale and reference, when Mississippi engaged in this work, they had $100 million to do statewide literacy. So we are inching our way along. But this funding would get us through the next 12 months of really intensive literacy. So that is my brief sales pitch on these funds. But
Senator Watson, you
Yeah, a couple of questions. So just on that last point, it gets you through the next 12 months, but does that mean that we would not see any, it sounds like you would need additional support in future years.
Yeah.
So just I'm thinking about the timing, like this is the BAA.
Yeah.
We really need to go through the end of June. Are we, we haven't talked about this yet in terms of the FY27 budget yet. So we're going to see this in the FY27 budget?
if it's not in the BAA, what we would do if this was in the FY26 BAA, then we would do some carry forward into FY27. So we would use it all up within the next several months. If we wait till the FY27 budget, I have these other sources of funds to basically keep us going through the spring. So we're not in that start and stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would bring in the 700,000 as soon as the new fiscal year started.
Okay.
We are also exploring philanthropic partnerships that we might be able to leverage, which is actually a model that Mississippi did use as well. So we are, as I said, we're trying to be very, very resourceful in how we're doing this. And then we're also looking at, the districts also receive title funds. And so how are they leveraging those dollars around very specific strategies that we know are evidence-based? So the agency is doing more technical support to really work with districts, especially our districts that have some of our lowest proficiency rates, to really look at how are you using your federal dollars to drive literacy outcomes, and maybe being a little bit more hands-on in our technical support around that than we have in the past.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to align all resources around this really critical priority in ways that I think that we haven't necessarily in the past, trying to get all of the oars rowing in the same direction.
I guess my question was about just your comment about the 12 months, because in my mind that ends February of next year. And then does that mean that you end up in the BAA again?
I was thinking about the next school year.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that I anticipate that this will carry us through the 2026-27 school year,
Okay.
because we'll be background layering on additional federal funds as they get appropriated.
Okay.
So we're going to add on more as we go.
And then my other question is about the scaling up and so these pilot schools have there was some agreement that they would participate in this. And so does the scaling up look like everybody is mandated, for all districts that they're mandated to participate in some professional development? Or does it look like coaching cycles, or is it still opt-in, or?
Bit of everything.
Okay.
So again, some of our lowest performing districts, it's going to be more of a
You have
down south. Yes. And our lowest performing districts also have additional federal dollars that come with that. If you're an identified school, it's additional school improvement dollars. So we're looking at being sort of directive in that way. We also, just lost my train of thought. You had like 3 questions in that.
Oh, it's just like what does scaling up look
Yeah,
like?
what is scaling up look
Yeah,
like?
and
So, as I sort of signaled, as you know, those coaching cycles are pretty intensive, right? So we're also looking at how do we, scaling up is a challenge in Vermont, especially because of our complexity of our systems. So how do we actually have in our highest needs districts, those intensive coaching cycles, and then in our districts that are performing better, like what are those best practices that everybody can utilize? We also have universal screeners. So that's going to be like a statewide, you will use a screener that is at least as comprehensive as this one. And that's in Act 139, actually, that the states are required to develop that, and then districts are required to use it. So multiple strategies is what I would say. And Aaron Davis, who's our chief of academics, could absolutely come in and talk about this all day if we just wanted to give you a sense of the direction that we're going in. I'm not going to say that we have all the resources we're going to need to sustain this for the next several years. I mean, this is a really big project.
And sorry, but the data from the screeners, is that the kind of screener where the teacher gets that data immediately, or do we need the state to get that data back to?
We're aiming for those
immediately. Okay, amazing.
Yeah,
Because
and
It
we're
needs to-
working with some partner
cycles.
models that might actually help us with
Okay,
making that available.
good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
The word of the day is scrap.
Is it a certain number of years that you consider the program should be running, or is it will just be part of pedagogy from here on out?
It's part of the. I mean, certainly we want to start to see improvements in literacy, and we already are in the places where we're doing this intensive supports, but this is a long-term project for us. Science of reading is best practice, right? So how does that become the standard?
Have those debates about how to teach reading, which way have those, they kind of settled on this evidence-based
We
reading?
have settled on the science of reading as that is our statewide evidence-based practice. So I would say that what do we call them? The literacy wars for about 10 years.
Reading one?
Yeah, the reading wars. I mean, with Act 139, you all actually settled that
Right.
debate. It's pretty clear.
And this follows that. So we're not a question that.
It's not a which one are you going to do? It's this is the one. This is the one.
Any other, yes?
Just out of curiosity, is this just something I realize the education that's just in the schools, or is it offered in communities or libraries or any?
Yeah, so there actually is a role for libraries in 139. And I apologize, I don't remember if the Department of Libraries received funding around that. So they do have a role in ensuring that there's, high quality, materials. We're partnering with them, and I think that's like a next phase for us is actually the family engagement around literacy. It's an all hands on deck. So we are already trying to, we've been talking about this for quite some time, but what is that next phase of work where we're getting out those, really high quality materials that, all families can participate in. We've actually identified as a broader theme in our education system that, sort of during COVID, for obvious reasons, families kind of couldn't be in the building anymore. And we're identifying that we haven't really come back from that, and that there seems to be a real disconnect between families and schools. And so this is one of our strategies is actually to use libraries and other community spaces and how we get those materials into those spaces, because our community partners are excellent for those. We're also thinking about kind of our after school programs and how we can embed literacy strategies there as well. We are thinking of every possible lever that we can pull.
Okay.
So, and then just as a follow-up, get all this professional development out there, coaching, classroom practices change, and then there's standardized testing that happens. And how are we where are we at in terms of like the ability to get the data back to the schools and to make it public and
Faster.
well, right, and I guess I say that to, yeah,
I
Yeah.
don't disagree.
yeah, right.
So a major project and priority that is occupying a lot of our time right now in the agency is how do we ensure that we get those assessment results out
Mhm.
faster? I fully agree. We're actually putting a lot of time on that right now. It takes, I wish it was as simple as, you know, that it actually takes the way that we collect our data cycles have to be adjusted because we collect data at this point in time that feeds into the assessment data before it can go live. It's a challenge, but it's a major priority for us. And I say that because Zoe and I are in these meetings almost every day on this right
Yeah,
now.
sure. Well, good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important. And I bring it up just because, you know, in terms of like, how do we know if the program is working?
That's right.
You know, like we should see
Yeah.
gains on that front.
We should. And of course, as you know, districts have their local comprehensive assessments as well. So, you know, those kind of
Yeah.
2 or 3 times a year and you're doing your own. We are also looking for partnerships in that area. So how do we align these two things? So you get real time feedback as a teacher, right? Why do we assess? We assess so that we can drive instruction, right? That's the whole point of assessment. So how do we make it more friendly and more integrated? It's a major goal of ours. You're pointing to all right.
Thank you. I think it's something that we need to support. It's just a question of whether we can fit it into the VA or.
Yeah. And as I said, it will be in that FY 27 budget if it's not in the VAA. What we gain from having it in the VAA is the ability to plan and not have the start and stop and the uncertainty that we've experienced in this work. So being able to sustain it is a goal of ours. All right.
Okay.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a wonderful weekend.
Too.
And
That is my most efficient testimony.
trying to be efficient around here. So if anybody's trying to find this on the worksheet, it's not on there because the house didn't. So this was,
Read under one time.
oh, it isn't?
Yeah.
Well, but
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
in there, but
That's not it?
what is? It showed that they're taking them out. So I guess even though the governor didn't put it in this VA, you added it to the worksheet. Because he added it. That's I thought since he didn't add it in this VA with the, but it is on. Line 94. Okay, so I have a new one of these on my, is this a new one? Or did somebody just set theirs on the desk? Okay, I thought maybe somebody had printed.
You can answer. Anybody need to?
I'm not using that. Okay. So we can go through trying to close out more of these. But I don't know if there's anything Center Alliance that you want to report on the section, or do you just want to talk about them when we get to those?
Well, yeah, we can go through. I do have two proposals. One, Jen Harvey is working up right now, and the other one is ready. And Nolan was gonna,
He was here.
he was here. Yes, we have a thin copy of that one, so I will let him know that.
Okay,
But we can go ahead and bring it up and wait. It's at the end of the bill, anyway.
okay. So there was one that was left open, but I didn't write it.
Yeah, I think it was the
You don't have to
301.
text no one, you just walk in.
It was 301, B, and we can close that up.
We can close that one out. Okay, so.
Okay, I think, so.
I'm sure. Just.
Show them.
Okay, I'll send it to Ellen. Okay. I do have one.
Okay, we'll keep going until we get to that. So we're on line 45, which is B 314. Number 3 from here, we closed out everything up to that point. We did leave it open, but on the app, 48, I had line 31, though. Or,
28, so.
28, so
I had close.
I had it close,
20.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it's close.
Okay.
because it's a net, it's just a zero, it's just a change within. Yeah, so this federal fund conciliation, I don't think we had any questions there. Voted that on something. I think that probably. Thank you. Youth and adult transport. P314, we're okay with that one. Also, forensic evaluation. Funding. Hear that one. ENMI increase. Okay. Well, commitment there. We increase the vacancy savings, so this is they're increasing their vacancy, it means they're decreasing the vacancy savings. Guess they're increasing the savings, so that's it. So we like when people save money. Was that out? Funding changes to Medicaid billing, I don't remember this. That is plus $1 million. Funding swap with Uncle Quinn. I think we're up there on that. River Valley Therapeutic River Board.
Yeah.
That's that's. So the one, government nurses contract. Either we didn't have to do it, we have to do it. And funding rate alignment. Jenny. So just ask Jenny. Jenny. Are you okay with closing up the travel?
Yeah, it's a contract, so they have to meet the payment.
Okay.
I know. I don't think, on line 53,
Yeah,
In the notes, it says funding swap of FF. So what's that?
fund.
Federal funds. In my world, that means fossil fuels.
Well, they kind of give us similar.
These days. Okay. The income verification system that these people. $50,000. It's low utilization, family services, savings money. Good eviction. Funding alignment, funding. And there's the base load utilization. That's a little bit. I can't remember what this transportation concept increase was from family service.
that because of.
$1 million. I can remember what train support.
I have a
Yeah.
little in my notes on rising costs for transporting children in custody to school, medical equipment,
Oh,
and secure
right.
transports.
It's kind of the contracting. Backseat seat such services. $40,000 savings. Base load adjustments. GA program. Do that, if somebody does one. And reach up. Save some money there. And this reduction of the hop. Positions. So you're okay with that? They're just moving these positions. So the shelter investments. You might wanna keep this open for a second. Or we can talk about it. If you rather close down the ones that we agree on and come back to ones for that, or do you wanna talk about this as we get to it?
Yes.
Okay. Go back to that one. This is.
So leaving open 64.
Yeah, as far as open, this is. The difference about how to spend that $2 million. And so you also want to keep 65 open because that they're spending that money on. This equalization program. It's that out, program. Federal funding reconciliation. Well, it's federal fossil fuel.
Now you can't unsee it.
Let's tell people that
I think it's well.
better watching this. Proving lots of possibilities. The collective bargaining. Hear that? Meals on Meals. So this is money that the House added, but it's not part of another construct. Is it this $30,000 additional funding for Meals on Meals? Or it is a part of, there's a section where they gave money that they send out of programs. Like where did this?
That's not this one.
It's not. This is just one line. Here's $30,000 from you. So you found the money.
Technical letter.
Yeah. Technical letter. And, oh, if I had it out. Things, this person. All right. House, oh, so the House provided 30,000. So they have language to, they have a suggestion on how it changes. But there's, the governor is not objecting. We want to close that out. Meals on Wheels are kids. Yeah, you can try it nice. So they're reducing the EFR funding is how the House funded the other things. So I don't know if we want to leave this open and come back to it, just so we can understand it better, because it impacts others. I'm always that open.
Well,
Yes, I think they're connected.
70
Yep.
and 71.
Yeah.
was this? Sorry, we're seeing. Yeah. He's talking about, say, base or one-time funding, or?
It's basically an increase to the base ongoing, correct?
Well, that's the concern from the governor's office.
Yeah, okay.
I'm gonna suggest we close all the correction ones out unless somebody has any issue with any of those. I think. So that's 72 through 78. And I guess also, 79 out of state beds. I wish we weren't doing that, but we're full up. Vermont Veterans Home, we're not on this. The game warden RFR. Did we do this last year? But it's just like, it's coming close. We have two fiscal years. I think we are spreading it out, didn't we?
That one I think ended up being two, they went out more than one. I think they budgeted for one pay grade and then it ended up being two. So they didn't have enough in the base.
Before the RFR came out, they thought there was gonna be one, but. Then. Let's see, wildfire costs, it's not a good sign. We got. Financial Review Board, Anything to say about that, Watson? Okay, close it out. Okay, these are one-time appropriations, sections, accountability courts. Seem like we're in favor of cost for that. Office fit up for this,
I do have questions about that.
which one, the
Office fit up. I wasn't here, but I'm wondering that. What exactly is office fit up? Because it's a pretty substantial.
yeah, and it's per AHS, it's from the secretary's office, but I think it's because of the department health return to work, but I could be wrong.
Oh, office fit up for all the people returning.
Yeah, it's not, it's within the secretary's office budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's down 390,000 for the secretary's office.
That's what I
I
was.
mean, it's a glass elevator, next golden escalator.
Okay,
Part of this,
that makes sense.
I don't know if it's this time, but somewhere in here is like the lease
Right. 'cause
that
it's
they,
From the health
the
department.
new
Yeah.
space.
So desks. And
Yeah, and also just a
Yeah.
lease for the building.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
And you. We'll close out that. Non-emergency transport,
Before we move on, I just want to note my objection to the return to work.
right?
That is all.
noted.
So noted.
Right,
We're
it's
moving on. Okay, thank you.
not, there is a cost to that.
Some food tantrum.
There were real costs to that. a good thing
Yep.
for,
Spending money.
These. I wonder if we want to leave this one open because doesn't it relate to the other ones? This is another one that the governor in his letter got concerned about whether this was based or one time. So I'm gonna leave it open.
Which one?
Talks about ADA and medical non-emergency
Oh,
transport.
right,
89.
89.
Health disparities, equity work. Run through that, health department. Pictures to health, okay. Recovery centers. We leave open, because they're part of the larger. Super, yeah,
Was that,
92,
was that not just shoring up to make sure they all got the same?
Yeah, remember that was the list of different appropriations to each different one based on their,
Yeah, but I didn't think there was any policy shift. It was just making sure it was all fairly.
just outlining how much each one would get.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
right, but this is,
what is that?
it's different than. You know. The House added in funding.
So the administration. has
97.
distributed.
Well, no, they were not, they were questioning whether. Isn't this part of their base or one time, or was it not?
I heard it was just truing up, so they all got,
Right, but
Right.
yes, that's what I was.
Well, let's leave it open for now, just so I make sure. Child abuse, IT, so the Vermont Read program. And I talked to our chair of education, he was like, you know, he didn't have time to look at it. So we could just kick it to the next, the FY 27 budget. In my mind, it seems like it's. You know, it's not a change of policy, it's not like we're having to do something that the education committee would likely have questions for, but. Anybody on the committee feels strongly.
Where do you want to go?
I probably better to tell FY 27 more to take it into consideration with everything else we have going on.
Then figure it out.
So we're gonna. Basically, that would be you agreeing with the House. So if we close it out, we're agreeing with the House appropriations. We'll close it. Seemed like from Jill's testimony, they could still do it forward. They would like the assurity. But I think we'll get the funding if anyone make sure, sorry. How we're prioritizing any funds that we reverted, which were our funds.
So are you saying that if we agree that maybe we would consider that for that by 27?
Yeah. So we're agreeing with the House. No. Homes for all, $20. HCV and delayed access for the housing option program. And you keep closing that. Data hub. DIVA. The reconciliation payment. This represents the decrease to where what it was. So gotta pay them. So the Vermonters feeding Vermonters. This is another 400,000.
I would, I'm not gonna fight this or anything, but I would say I tried to give it to, Meals on Wheels or loaves and shelves.
Let's leave that open.
Okay, we'll leave that up. I mean, I like supporting the farmers.
I don't mind supporting the farmers.
You don't like farmers, but I,
But it's, but it's an additional 400,000 into a program. And if I was in the place we're in, they've been cutting the EBT cards and everything else. And so I would err on the side of giving money directly or food directly into people's.
And we could think about setting up a difference with the House to keep the discussion.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not opposed to any of this, but this is an addition. And if I was gonna do it, would I put money directly to people?
all this food will go directly.
Well, but it's through the horn around the,
Different direction.
yeah,
Path.
From the farmer to the food bank.
well, to the food bank to that, and you know, shelves, it's direct. Meals on Wheels, it's direct. And we've got, again, we've lost a number of, in Gilman in the Northeast Kingdom, they shut down their Meals on Wheels program.
Good.
Just,
Yeah. We'll keep. That one up. Should County Pilot Court? Is that is the accountability court, right?
Yeah.
Not a different thing.
Doing well by all accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I did hear that in the House of Judiciary said they something about not needing all the money, but well,
I'm sure they need at least that much.
it was something else.
Because the House already agreed with that, right?
Yeah, it was after they had done it. Because, but we'll close it out and we can move it around later. There's actually something. And then this is also the accountability court for the state's attorneys. Section 8 housing. So this is the construct of how to get 5 million for Section 8. The governor's office, I thought, had in their technical letter had a better way of doing it, but still gets $5 million. That would show up as an appropriation and we lower the 50 million to 45 million. That would just be language changes on it. Maybe we'll leave it open. Does anybody have any concerns about that 5 million going to Section 8?
just say to me, why did you think the administration's was better?
Because they just, instead of saying we're gonna take it out of the 50 million, if you read their explanation in the technical letter, they're just saying we'll reduce the 50 million we set aside to 45 million, and then we'll make an appropriation of $5 million to the section 8. The way
And it gets to the same thing.
it gets to the same.
Well, that only creates a difference between the two, and they have to explain themselves better when you go to.
Yeah.
I don't feel strongly, but I think, do you think it's better and it accomplishes the same thing?
I'm not really clear on their logic for why they want to do that, why that's the topic.
The way they're together.
Yeah,
But the governor's office or the house?
why the, oh, you know, the governor's office that proposed that we just reduce it to 45 million.
They were the 50 million that we set aside, but that's what the House said, we'll just take that 5 million out of that.
Yeah.
They're saying instead, we're changing that budget, so
Yeah.
we're changing that 50 million to 45.
Yeah.
It frees up $5 million that we can just appropriate it. Events. And I don't know, Emily, if you have any, or Amy, do you have anything to say about this construct the governor proposed? Not just by an accounting procedural. If you have any comments on it.
I think mechanically it makes sense. It makes it easier for them to track. Yeah, I don't know. 601 half, that's what the other.
I suppose with that proposed construct that it would have less strings around it.
If it got directly appropriated,
Right.
Yeah,
And that makes, especially if they have other hoops they have to jump through.
I think it's more like hoops to keep track of it more than the funding source would be the same. From what I've guessed.
why would we do what the administration wants if it's the same and it's easier to track?
Yeah. So we'll say that we're agreeing to the 5 million. We just need to
Figure out the best way to do it.
to the gov's language. That was only
charged?
Thought that was any north, yeah.
We got
I
permission.
have
Go on the
permission.
next one.
I'm wondering if somebody else made noise on.
Thank you, Senator Rose.
You're more than
I can now check off the boxes.
You need to get a silencer.
We've made those legal.
Mhm.
I think we already did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
That's what she said. They're now big. Okay, transfers. This is the criminal history records check fund, this $1.06 million for the deficit in that account. Say we're gonna close it up. Close it up, but then we're also agreeing to the House language, which requires them to give us the sustainability report on that fund. They probably need to rate the fee.
Well, we discussed that today, I know, yes.
So you didn't,
And, we agreed the language, obviously, and they're gonna look at it because they don't know what it looks like as far as the actual cost for it. The numbers, what would the fee be going up as, $5 for it, $10 or whatever. Come back to the-
were they okay with the House question? And pilots, special fund. They, I remember what this $70,000 wasn't big other office compared to the 3 point whatever now. You explain this one, maybe?
Chris, joint fiscal, this is part of the agency of transportation item involving town highway aid. So
Yeah.
the House declined to make V-Trans pay back the pilot fund, 360,000 and change. Some of that hit the general fund as 292,000 and change in both the two funds. So those revenues, rather than going back to the pilot fund, we just stay in those respective funds.
So we'll agree to that.
Fine with agreeing that I think we're struggling bad because this pilot fund, we need to use this.
Yeah, well, hopefully And we did this with both.
I'm working on it.
I get it. Okay, so. I don't- Seems like some of these were. Some of these are all put together. Not sure the best way to address them. So do you have a proposal of more than one that are aligned for you?
I have a proposal. This is, it's at the end of the bill, the language on the DAs.
Okay. Almost on the last page. Is it?
Yeah.
And that's page 57. And there's no money, this is just.
There will be money.
Okay.
Yeah. There's money. That was the hard part.
So would this be a strike off section 83 or?
Well, let's go through it and then, no one should be, there's no one around.
He leaves every time.
He left as soon as I got in trouble. Okay, so what page is that on?
80 or 57. Section
So
80.
this relates to conflict-free case management, and funding, new funding formula for, our designated agencies. And basically what's happened is the designated agencies would be providing services for the first year of implementation. And then they would receive their payment afterwards. So it would be, put them in a deficit.
Is this 17 or 18 months that they said you would not?
That's the 17 months that they were talking about. So it's based on utilization. So the question is, can we, for that a one-time expenditure, put money into the DAs and sort of estimate the utilization rate for them? So in this one, it says a utilization rate of 65%. That will be a certain amount of money. No one will help me here, how much it is exactly. If the DAs don't use all of the money, then it will go back to the department. They use it all, it's part of the services, payment that delivers. This language, I will say, the reason I brought up conflict-free case management in the beginning is that this has not been without conflict to resolve this issue. It's taken time. This has been going on for a year. Joint Fiscal heard about it over this summer and fall, and our committee has looked at it. And so I think with the negotiation that's going on with the Department of Aging and Independent Living, we've gotten to a place, hopefully to a good place where we can resolve the differences that have been out there, and help the DAs remain solvent while the new payment system is put in place.
So
Go
this,
through it,
yeah,
and I've asked Noel to chime in.
So for the record, and all language on the spot, there's a couple of small tweaks that just need to be added to the language. The section C, there's no date. There's date no later than X date. So also under C, it requires like a joint group to convene. It includes chairs of Senate Health and Welfare, Appropriations, etc. And I would suggest adding and or designee so that their purchase doesn't have to go to the meeting. We don't want it. We could send, Senator Westman instead. And then finally, the cost to increase that utilization to 65% is $9.5 million gross, which is $3.9 million in general fund.
3.9. What is the current proposal? What is the change in to get us from what to 65%?
It's what
Zero.
the budgets are based around 40%.
40%.
but it's not, it's a little more complicated than that, but it's sort of based off of.
So you give them this extra 25% deals with the cash flow.
Plus the cash flow and
Okay. And then this $3.9 billion, you have a proposal that comes in.
Well, I struggled with where to find it. And going through the list of what we have on this sheet, there really wasn't a place until I got to the bottom line. So I was looking at the bottom of the Senate line, which is 122.7, and using maybe I don't know the alternative to that, maybe taking it out of 50 million. But it seemed reasonable that this expenditure will help maintain our designated agencies across the state. And keep them sustainable. And we've heard that they could be in real financial difficulty without it. And there were some who wanted the number to be much higher. This was a number that came to us, the 65 number more or less was something that the Department of Aging and Independent Living can live with the folks.
And why does the Senate body have that much about it? I'm not understanding or remembering why we would have that much more.
I couldn't remember that either. I thought,
We haven't filled in any of the numbers yet, so we haven't made any choices in the Senate column.
So all the expenditures, right? So there's not that much money.
No.
could be 40
We're all close.
No, you hadn't spent any. Now you've spent, I think, all of it, so.
Right. Yeah. So so we can look at the new spreadsheet basically, because once we've agreed with everything, it's in this, I'll go if we want to agree to the 74 million carry forward for property taxes or other things for the house construction. We'll have depending on a couple of these things, we'll have more like $18,000 on the budget.
18,000.
Yeah.
how much?
18,000. That's what the house ended up, right? So if we agreed with everything at the house,
Oh, yeah, there it is.
it would be that 18,000.
So I do have a quick question.
Yes.
So is this something because of loss of federal funding or what?
No, it's just, well, yeah, it's a federal requirement for the new payment system. And during the implementation of the payment system, there's a sort of a hiatus between old and new. And so the billing would be retrospective, so they would provide all the services, then get paid. So, and after that period of time, it would switch around, so you get prospective payments. So within that period of time where you're not getting paid, if you don't have cash reserves to last for a period of time, you can't meet your obligation, your financial obligations as a designated agency.
So
They wouldn't be able to pay for,
does it really mean they're going to get paid for 17 months?
no,
this is less.
No.
they get paid on assumption that they're gonna provide 40% of the services.
Right.
And then there's a reconciliation. If they do less, they go money for more. But if you bump it up to 60, they get more money. And then the reconciliation, if it's under 60, would be higher, but it's a bigger payment, an assumption that they're gonna provide more service.
And you would do that, that would be the rate going forward. You don't have, or do you just have to do it the first year, then?
After the first year, they'll know what it is and they can recalibrate. Because it's the first year doing it, so there's.
In your estimate of the $3.9 million cost, that's if you do it through all the DAs. Like the DA in my county said that they could live with 40%.
Some can and some can't.
But the estimate is just.
This assumes 60%, 65%. So, if they are below 60%, then they'll have a bigger reconciliation. If they're above it, they'll have to pay them like a 5% plus 35%. It's very common.
Yes, what was the previous percentage?
I think, well, prior to it was just completely different. They changed to, we had to do this, they changed the whole way they pay.
Okay.
And
it's the first year.
system goes into place.
In place.
So we're in the, okay.
This would be retro.
Okay, well, we'll leave that open. Talk about that some more. Did you at all, in your committee, also talk about the shelter investment card at all?
Which one?
This is line 64. 64 and 65. So the governor had recommended the $2 million. Remember we had OEOing the other day.
Right, there were questions about, there was support for the shelter investments, yes, and then there were questions about the HOP, funding and, I think fine, I think we were okay with that. Yeah, I was going to recovery residences.
Okay, we left the house.
Yeah, yes.
Where is this in the language? It's I think I have it there. Is there, if there's language as well, it's just in language.
For the HOP, yeah, there is. Yeah, that was the only sojourner yesterday coming in.
The old section that is
It's on page 55. And then that was a topic of discussion in our committee regarding how much each of the organizations could receive. Ultimately, I think we're okay with it. Allowing for HOP.
it gives money to these providers instead of OEO, just
Yes.
focus on shelters.
Yes.
Anybody have any feelings about the way proposals could go along with the house? Proposals would be close out 64 and 65. Which lowers the amount. The governor wanted for emergency shelters, filtered. With 680,000 for that, but as it says on page 56, provides funds directly to these on the ground organizations that are helping people with housing. Okay, without objection, we'll close that. So then everything on the first sheet is done. I don't remember the EFR funding decrease, but that was.
Great.
Yeah, they reduced the funding for the EFR to pay for the ERC one rate offset. So in this year, our 26 budget, we gave 2% increases to home and community-based providers. It was based on a rate, but it was not clear until legislative time that in that rate study, there was assumption of some decrease in rates as well. So when they implemented the 2%, ERC one actually saw a decrease in the rate, not an increase. So what this does is it brings them back to where they were. They don't get 2% increase, they don't drop. So it's like I forget what the number is.
120.
Or yeah, so for this year, and then it's annualized. There's 1.1 million in 27. So if you approve it in BAA, it's also got a 27.
Okay, so this is one of the concerns from the administration about adding to the base.
This is the base increase.
Then there's no way to do it at the month.
No, because it's a base increase. And so if you start looking at giving them grants, it creates other concerns and issues about can you get match on it?
Right.
And
Just global commitment next in.
yes. And the AAAs are also baked into that too. They're a lot smaller, into that decrease in taking EFR funding.
Okay, so I think we're going to close those out. On the Medicaid non-emergency transport, is there a way to do that as a grant? It seemed like there would.
I think that is one time.
But now this is 330.
It's the gross stuff, so if that's local commitments, that's the GM. That's 800,000 gross. I don't have the sheet, that's 800,000.
Yeah, it is $800,000.
But my understanding is that is one time.
The one time stuff.
Okay.
I think there's been some confusion.
Yeah.
In the letter, in the governor's letter, that this was this is the base pressure.
Yeah, Amy's right, there has, it's been on Twitter, we think it's one time, they think it's based, I think we need to figure that out.
Okay, so if there's any other language that we can put in there, to clarify that it's paid.
Water rebates.
Yeah, to clarify that it's not.
Okay.
So that would close out 89. And then on the 89, and then on the recovery centers. I don't know if you also looked at this center lines. Well. If this was specific money tied to something else the house did, or they just have found.
We found one, it came out of the substance misuse fund. Cannabis. But then there was enough to cover it,
And that's,
and that's one time.
yeah, it's an old thing. Can you remind me where it is, because there's language about. And then it's getting.
I don't have the language.
Yeah. It's 30. Yeah.
Yes.
And
HVAC.
JFO can, if you, when the house did these amounts, I remember hearing, can you remind us? How they did this?
If I recall, when the grants were done in the budget, each recovery center needed a different amount. AHS just gave everybody the same amount regardless of their need.
Right.
And this was meant to sort of correct for that.
It's no policy change from the thing, it's just.
Yeah, but it does increase the appropriation, but there's money in the fund to cover.
And we're not going different than what the recommendation was, this use of those. Isn't there like a,
Oh, no, that's not part of the Oakland, so that's different.
okay.
It's different fund.
This isn't a policy change, this is.
Yeah, it's an appropriation things.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll agree to that. And to fill that out. And we'll language. Okay, I'm gonna suggest.
I have another,
So I guess it's.
I have another,
Oh, yeah, good. Let's do that. and then we'll-
no money involved,
So, there is,
well,
there is.
there's always money.
Thank you.
I have enough, no one, I might want one back.
I have one.
I need one more. It's just, I got a blank page. Does everybody have one?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, right now, there are family planning codes within Medicaid that we could use, to get federal match at a 90-10 match, which is terrific. And what this will do is have the reason that, DEVA hasn't gone through and asked for the match with the family planning codes is because it takes time to go through all those codes and identify the ones that could be acceptable for the state to apply to the federal government. So what this does is it puts it in place. It says, go ahead, identify the codes and look for the match so we can get a 90-10 match, 90 from the federal government, we put 10 when it happens. There's a lot of money involved with this. Will be millions of dollars for the state as a result of the match that we get. So that's all this does. It expands our ability to use it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happened was we put in the budget, it's 80-10, we put in 85,000 and we're getting 850 back. Or 850 gross, so 85,000 she have the match for federal, so it's a gross of 800,000. Put in the budget, when the administration went to implement it, they determined that it's based on the intent or whatever feedback to give, and they were unable to administer it. But we were sort of, they had kind of hinted that it could be done, they just didn't do it. But then for BAA, they instead of doing it, they just took the money out. And so the House went along with that. And so what this is doing is saying, no, figure this out and do it. Other states are doing it. Don't see why you can't do it too. So this is kind of going back and saying, please figure out how to do it. But it would require $85,000 to come back if the House went along with the governor's reduction of $85,000. So this would require $85,000 in general fund to gross up $850,000. That makes sense?
Yeah. When it was in the PA, when do we need that money?
Well, it's one of those things where it would be implemented when they do it. Like, so it's not like the money, you need the money in the budget so that when they can do it, they do. But your point is correct. If they don't do it the full year, you might not need the full 85,000. That's a good point. But you're right. Actually, the 85,000, we can probably cut that down. We're already halfway through the year. And actually, one could argue that thinking of doing math on the fly, you could probably do 1/4. I think 85 times 25% of that is what you would need for this year. And then you annualize it for the 27 budget. You pull 85 to 27. So you'd be committing, this is base.
22.5 or something.
Yeah, so you do 22, whatever it is, and then you have to, but you're committing to a base of 27 of 85. That's the base.
Okay, I think anybody have any questions or comments about
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
So is there a guarantee to cover this with the federal funds or
Is there what?
the federal funds are gonna match, it's a matching thing here?
Yeah, we'll put in 85,000 and we'll get back the total of 850,000.
Which, well, my question is, will we get it back with everything?
Yeah.
is going on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, the only other thing, other than the two new things, or not, well, one's the DA language, one's the planning governments, is the hunger programs. And I'm going to suggest that we lower the 35 and add the 50,000 to Meals on Wheels as a way to address your concern, Senator Weston. So we'll take a little bit off of the Vermont Feeding Vermonters and put it onto the Meals on Wheels. So there's a difference for the conference, but we can talk about it later. So we had, could be 0.035. Over there.
What number was that again?
98.
98 and
61 bill.
yeah, 69.
I have no problem with, Vermonters feeding Vermonters, but just, this is a long ways around. Times, the two programs that directly get run people are Meals on Wheels, which end up being the older, and the food shelves gets money.
So you're putting that to 0.35 or
0.35, and then the other one, I guess, would be up to 0.08. Yeah. But. And then I think we're gonna have to wait till Tuesday to talk about of 3.9 and 85,000. Right, once we make sure we do the math, otherwise we have to take a break and come back and do it today, so. We will have a new sheet on Tuesday. And any other new information we get between now and Tuesday. And it seems like the end of
Do we still have 70 and 71 open?
what's that?
Some still have 70 and 71 open.
70 and 71.
Long-term care.
No, that's what we talked about, that was.
Okay,
We were
so you're
okay
gonna
with
be okay.
that change. And it will be a phase. If there was a way to make it one time, that was one of the governor's concern. He didn't disagree with it, but he disagreed with the phase. But I don't see a way of making it a one time. And
Yes, so on the governor's worksheet that they provided, there are some items that you haven't discussed that aren't general fund, because you've only really talked about general fund. And so like the cannabis board has some, and AHS does have some requests that are general fund related.
so where are those up? Is everything on here?
No, so on the first sheet, like at the bottom, cannabis is flows, just sort of discussing them, whether or not you want to close them or you want to change their.
These are basically all of these.
Right, so you've only really discussed everything on the left-hand side. The column that says general funds,
Oh, I see.
and then if there's a GC component, sort of
Or
general,
it's
talk
special
about
funds.
those. Yeah,
Okay. So
so you can talk about those next week.
right. So like the public safety administration. Exactly. There's other funds.
So you only talked about
That would
the
be
3 items that are on the sheet closed. So you just need to talk about those 2.
Are those the only ones? But there's other ones.
There's a few more.
Maybe we can on Tuesday go through those as well. Ones that we haven't already done. I don't think any of them we wouldn't close out, but so we have fresh eyes on what those are and maybe put them in a different highlight them or something.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions?
Not a question, just as if I did ask Kim for some more language on that section 8 housing about the distribution of funds to the different housing authorities.
That was what we,
Well, you asked for language.
Oh, it's no many change. It's just how, because there's the $5 million that it's maybe going to the of like HUD
Section
related.
B.
Yeah, for section 8. And so there's a question of that I raised about how the money gets distributed.
Oh, right.
And was it just like everybody
Equity,
gets
right.
the same amount, or is it proportional to the caseload, et cetera? So
Right. And also,
the affirmative vote.
right. And I did get language
Oh, yeah.
about the affirmative vote. But I think also the governor's technical letter also mentioned the technical change in that section about how we talk about the reversion part, which I had asked about as well. So we will also have language to go.
Okay.
Section 79. So you did ask for language?
I did, but I mean, I open to discussion though.
Did you ask for language just when we talked about in committee or separately? Because can you write me up how that would be?
I asked for new language that would be in I suppose.
Okay.
But I just asked for it today. So
Okay. So we can
no,
go over that Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because I think the way the app was worded about how it carries forward. Okay, so we also have that. And then we would also need to on Tuesday go through the language with great leaders and then both the governors recommend and any language that we have. Okay.